Welcome to episode 11 of the Composer Happy Hour, presented by Whatever and Ever Amen. It's been a while since we shared a drink together, and I am happy to be back. Quick reminder that the video version of our show is available at buymeacoffee.com/whateverchoir. For the fourth episode in a row, our episode is being sponsored by Four Fires Meadery, a delicious craft meadery shipping nationwide straight to your door. Visit them at 4fmeadery.com to order a bottle for yourself today. My guest today is Matthew Lyon Hazzard. In recent years, Matt has been celebrated for his exquisite text setting and beautiful soundscapes, and his music is vibrant and exciting. While we'd previously met only in passing, our conversation quickly felt like talking to an old friend. A credit to Matt, who's quite affable and very likable. If you don't have one already, pause this episode and pour yourself a drink. You deserve it. My name is Brad Pearson, and this is the Composer Happy Hour. Hey, Matt, welcome to the Composer Happy Hour.
Hey, Brad. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. How are things? You doing well?
Things are swell. Yeah, last year of the doctorate.
Yeah, so, good. I want to talk about that. I'm you right off the bat. Good. I'm excited to get to that. Before we do, we should talk about drinks because it is, after all, happy hour. What are you drinking tonight?
So I got all my stuff here. Yeah. I have a Clover Club. So have you ever had a Clover Club?
I have not.
So I guess I'll just start shaking it because it's an egg white cocktail.
Yeah. and
I need to infuse some air into the egg white. But it's a gin cocktail with Chambord. So it's like really fruity and everything. And then there's citrus, so lemon or lime, and then simple syrup. And okay. Yeah, it takes a hot
Nice. Well, I'm glad you're going to work really hard. We're going to get you out of breath just in time to start the show. So that's perfect. Well, that's good. Are you a cocktail drinker? I mean, is that your kind of go-to beverage if you're out and about?
Actually, yeah, I'm totally like a craft cocktail nut. I mean, it's kind of perfect living in Houston because there's craft cocktails. There's no zoning laws, so like every single block has a craft cocktail bar.
Okay.
It's really super nice. And I live in this place called the Heights, which has a number of them. So it's kind of like, it's really, really great if you enjoy cocktails. Not really great if you're a grad student trying to.
God, man, I hear that. I did my doctoral work in Seattle, and I loved Seattle, but I thought, why couldn't I live here when I was like able to sustain myself and have time to do things? Yeah. So I understand.
Well, I mean, when I visited Seattle, like is this too loud? Is this like
No, go for it.
Oh, perfect. Well, when I visited Seattle, it seemed like, it was like pretty hopping, and it was also super expensive.
It is very expensive. Yeah. It's a great place though.
Yeah. I was in love. Cloudy, but in love.
Yeah. I prefer that. I like the weather. Like if it could be like 60 degrees and overcast all the time, I'd be perfectly happy with that.
Are you serious? Really? Like,
yeah, super happy. Well,
so you like overcast weather?
Yeah, it's not that I don't like the sun, but one of the things that makes Seattle great is that you get that kind of gray overcast for, I don't know, 9 months, 10 months of the year. But then when July 4th hits, it is the most beautiful summer. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible, but it's the contrast that does it. You know what I mean? If it was, I don't know. So I like both. I like it a little cooler. I like gray skies. I'm perfectly happy with that.
You're a trooper. I'm totally like, well, hold up. I just gotta
do it.
This egg white cocktail takes like a while. Like if I don't literally just shake the bejeez out of this for a solid minute, like it just comes out looking super.
That could be like a little what are they? That's ASMR. Is that what that is? Be just people will kind of tuck in and just listen to the shaking of your ice cubes.
I was thinking like, wait, I think I'm using I think my mic's here. Like, hello, welcome to ASMR. Like with Brad and Matt. No way. But okay, here it goes. Hopefully it's successful.
Yeah.
But oh,
It makes really good audio, right? Pouring a drink. Nobody can see what's going on. For the people that are watching, it looks great. It looks great.
Oh my God. Okay, that's so much effort. I was like thinking, oh, should I just do this in advance? So
no, that's good. I appreciate you going for it on the podcast. That's part of the fun. So
I'm glad you gave me the option.
Yeah. Well, you've got a cocktail. I am not drinking a cocktail. I'm a beer guy most of the time, although I love cocktails. But we for the, I think, 4th episode in a row, we do have a sponsor, and it's Four Fires Meadery. So I'm drinking a mead. Now, are you familiar with mead?
Not really. I mean, I heard you explain it before, but I completely forgotten.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, essentially, it's honey wine, right? I mean, it's fermented wine, and so it's really sweet. But these guys, Four Fires, are in Toledo, and they're really fantastic. And this one, I'm actually a little bit nervous because this is called Mangost, and it is a honey mango pineapple wine with ghost peppers added.
I knew it was coming. Yeah.
So it's going to be sweet, but I also they're not afraid of being aggressive with flavor. So I'm a little concerned about the ghost pepper and what that's going to do to me for the rest of the night. But it's real pretty, and man, mead is delicious, and it's 11% alcohol. And yeah, I'm pumped up. So hey, cheers.
Cheers.
All right, there you go.
Like, I'm trying to make sure I don't drop it all over my keyboard. Oh my God. I'm just after a long day. This is
yeah, I hear you. So did your egg whites, did it come together? Are you feeling good about the cocktail?
Oh yeah. It's gorgeous. I'm really proud of it. It was actually my cocktail chemistry was my COVID project.
Nice.
Like when we were all in quarantine. Yeah, right. My partner. Oh, you know John.
I do.
Yeah. He has this big silver book of cocktails, 1,000 cocktails.
That doesn't surprise me.
So when the quarantine started, I was like, well, I really wanted to get good at like mixing cocktails for a really long time, and I was like, this is the perfect time. I mean, like I feel like that's what a lot of folks did.
Yeah, the rest of us made sourdough, but you focused on cocktails. I get it.
That's what John did. John went for the sourdough starter. I went into the cocktails, and I thought like, I can make a dent in this book. I did not make a dent in this book. It was like I got a handful in, and I was like, I found my favorites. A lot of them are not good, so I was like, okay, well.
Well, you mentioned before we actually started recording, you mentioned that you had some coffee, and that was going to be a needed drink. Now, I'll tell you a funny story. I should have had coffee, and I'm going to apologize to you and our listeners in advance if I yawn tonight. At 4 a.m. this morning, all of the carbon monoxide detectors in my house started going off, and we didn't know why. We panicked. We've got a 1-year-old, and we panicked, got him up out of bed, called 911, had the fire department show up just to tell us, yeah, it was probably a bug in one of the alarms.
Apparently that's comforting.
Apparently that's the thing. But so we were up at 4 for about a half hour, hearing beeping, and it's a whole anyway. So I should have caffeinated, and I did not. But I've got to drink it, and all's well.
I'll pour one out for you.
Yeah, there you go. So what's new? What's happening? I know you said you were really busy. What's going on in your life right now?
Oh man. So you know how the summer kind of, I don't know how it was like where you were at, but this summer, it was like summer with a vengeance. Like everyone was so ready to live after being like cooped up for so long. It's like, I didn't have summer, so this summer is going to be double summer. Yeah. Like every beach was absolutely slammed. There's twice as many people out than I've ever seen in Long Beach in my short time there.
Yeah, sure.
But it feels like it's the same way with this semester. Like now that we have like a real return to choral music, granted with masks, like we're choiring so hard, and it's
Yeah.
so good. I am so happy.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. It's a definitely the double-edged sword of like, I came home and I had to pour myself a coffee just to make sure that I was good to go, because it is just like, it's a marathon, but I'm super stoked. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're in your third year of your doctoral work. You're finishing up now, right?
Yes. Yep.
So are
Last year.
you now, I don't know, and you're at University of Houston, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they require at the University of Houston as far as recitals, document all of that. But where are you in your process? Do you have a large document to write? Have you started that process, or are you terrified by that process? What's happening?
Oh, it's well, I'm pretty well on. So like, it's a 3-year program at Houston, but it's a little bit interesting towards the final year because it's 3 years of coursework, but then you have an extra semester, which is your document and your lecture recital.
Yeah.
And you can either choose to do a dissertation, or you can do the essay and the lecture recital, which is what I'm doing. And got recitals in. We have like, if you're doing a lecture recital, then you have 4 total recitals: your lecture recital and your 3 recitals, each 45 minutes of music. And we can do it in like chunks. So we can do like a half recital here, a half recital there. So I've been giving recitals, I think, for for the past 5 semesters. But yeah, I just finished my 3rd recital, like the final chunk of my 3rd recital. And it's like, oh man, it's finally, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, because it's like,
Yeah.
I got comps, my document, my lecture recital, and then I'm out of there. So
Yeah. And we should tell people that although you're talking to me tonight in your role as composer, that you're not studying composition at the moment, not as a degree program.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Choral conducting. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what, for your, because I don't know how it works at Houston, for your lecture recital, how does that, what does that look like? Is there a musical concept that goes through the pieces that you write about? Is it a broad conducting concept? I mean, what kind of ties things together, and what does the output look like for you?
Oh, well, I guess there is some flexibility on the topic, because your minor can influence it as well. Excuse me. And it's the combination of that egg white and then the coffee and then the egg white. Yeah, but it's sorry, I just had like a complete brain fart. What was the question again?
Yeah.
You can edit this out in post, right? That's
I mean, I probably won't. Your lecture recital, does it have a certain element that ties music together, and then you write about that? Is it what's kind of the crux of that project?
So the crux is that I'm performing with a group 30 minutes of music and then speaking for 30 minutes. So it's an hour-long recital where I'm presenting on a piece, talking about the piece, perform the piece, talk about, and you can do it multiple ways. You can like talk for 30 minutes, then present for the music for 30 minutes. Of course, the conducting comes in because I'm conducting the choir. But yeah, you can mix and match and be like, and then the music does this, and then have the choir literally sing the example. So it's really intriguing. I'm not that far in the process, but I'm going to be very, very, very deep, very fast, because it happens in January, hopefully, if everything goes right. So
yeah, well, cool. So now you're getting a doctorate in choral conducting. You've been writing music for quite a long time, given that you're a pretty young guy. You're younger than I am, we'll say. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you won the first time you were kind of recognized through a like competition, or an award, so to speak, for your music. You were just 21 when that happened. Is that true?
I think so. Yeah. 2021. Yeah, that's the right ballpark. It's so long ago that I haven't even thought about it. Yeah.
So you must have known, I would assume that you must have known sometime early in your life that you wanted to go into music. And so I want to build to that, as we often do on the show, and I want to go way back. And why don't you tell us when and where you were born?
I was born in Torrance, California, which
Okay.
is in Los Angeles County, so
Yeah.
LA County Hospital. And I grew up in Thousand. Should I continue with my story?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Do you want the whole story? I've hopped around quite a bit.
Okay.
I have this permatan not because I've been out in the sun, but because I'm half Filipino. So
Uh-huh.
my mom's Filipino, my dad's white, and they raised us initially in Thousand Oaks, California. Then I lived in the Philippines, Manila, for 2 years,
Cool.
and then hopped on back to California for a year. Then really was raised in North Carolina.
Awesome.
So,
And did we got a where? Did we get a when?
Well, no, 1989.
There you go.
Just kind of gave you the story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Without the time date.
And what are your parents' names?
My mom is Jinji Kagiwa.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no one can pronounce her last name. And my dad is Timothy Hazzard.
And what did they do as you were growing up?
My dad was an oil tycoon, and my mom was a decorative artist.
Okay.
Like she actually got her degree in fashion, and like back when before they would take pictures, she would just like paint out what the dresses would look like.
Yeah.
And as part of like the concept and ads. It was really, really intriguing. I had no idea about it until my mom told me like way later in life. But yeah, that's what they were doing.
Were either of them musical? What was the musical experience like for you growing up, coming from your parents?
My mom would always sing. My mom would always sing is like, good morning, like she sing to us all the time.
Let me tell you why that song's particularly funny. My wife, her father sang that to her when they were young, and she thought he made it up for years and years and years. And it wasn't until I think near adulthood that she realized that he in fact had not written that song. And she was quite angry upon that realization.
I had the exact same experience. The exact same, except instead of like anger, I was like, what? Like I was just flabbergasted. I was like, I was at a disbelief. I was like, who am I? Like,
right.
What else is a lie?
That's funny. And did either of them, well, let me ask this, do you have any recollection of what kind of music they listened to? I mean, did they listen to pop music? Were they listening to classical music? Was your mom listening to Filipino music? What was the musical experience like?
Oh man. So with my mom, whenever she was driving us to or from school, she was always playing whatever was on the radio. Mm-hmm. So nothing like Filipino, like unless it was Tears for Fears or B-52s or something from the 80s. She would play just whatever was on the radio. So like a lot of my like the little pop music knowledge that I have is all just 90s bops, like or like early aughts. So like making my way downtown, walking fast, like that's
a little Vanessa Carlton. Yeah.
And then my dad was always listening to America, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Bob Dylan, a smattering of things. So I mean, like, it definitely filtered in. I mean, by the time that I was 14, my mom was listening to a lot of new age, because she was starting to go into switch careers from art to Pilates and yoga and health, and she would play a lot of like new age and York, and it was delectable. So I mean, that's that's in my heart as well. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. And so what was your first musical experience that was creating music in some way?
Hmm. I well, I did do piano when I was a kid. So
Yeah.
like when I was 4, and like baby's first recital and playing in front of folks. But I'd say that the biggest one for me was I don't know what your religion. What is your religion? Is that a kosher topic? Is it okay?
No, yeah, I'm an open book. That's why I started podcast. Currently or growing up?
Both. I want to know
Yeah.
both. I want to know the.
I'm very much an atheist now, but I grew up Lutheran and was pretty committed to that through high school-ish, and then life happens and you get older and whatever. But yeah,
You grow increasingly cynical and like,
uh-huh.
I don't know. Yeah. That reminds me of, like, this is completely random story, completely aside from any kind of music, but some of my it's funny now. It was like kind of mortifying back then, but I was raised in a Roman Catholic household, but not just Roman Catholic, like Filipino Catholic, so very conservative and almost superstitious. Like when I lived in the Philippines, I remember my my aunt, my Tita B, she's the loveliest, sweetest human being alive. She was so scared that my cousin was listening to Nirvana and Metallica
Yeah.
and just thought it was like, this is Satan's music. And so she
Uh-huh.
literally got all like this 13, 14-year-old boys CD collection and burnt it in the backyard.
Wow.
Like just stacks of CDs. And it was just like, what? Oh, it was, but like she came back and like she looked back on it like a couple of years later and was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I just didn't want you to go to hell. So it's just yeah, gotta watch out for
Uh-huh.
Nirvana and
So
all
yes. So then was making music in church, did you sing in church? Was that a big part of growing up? Because I think it is a
yeah.
lot for people who grow up in church, right? Singing on Sunday, whether I don't know, part of a choir. Did you
Yeah.
do a choir at church?
Yeah, I actually, my first choral experience was singing um, in the choir at Ayala Alabang Country Club. Like they would hold mass in one of the rooms of this country club, and my tito was there. Like all my relatives would be there, and I always loved singing with my tito Mike. So like that's like I think that's like, if there was a root experience where like music all flourished, especially choral music, it
Yeah.
was just us all lined up singing, watching the lyrics scroll by. You kind of just picked up the line by ear. Like none of us were sight reading or anything like
Yeah,
that.
sure.
Yeah, it was.
Uh, so you grow up, you play a little bit of piano when you're real little, you sing in the church, you do some choir stuff. You moved to North Carolina. I assume that you were singing in choir in high school. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
big time.
what was the thing that grabbed you? Because for most people, I think that are choral musicians, it's something in high school, right? That like it's a thing. Like you just get it, and you're
Yeah.
hooked. So what was that a moment? Was there a concert? Was it a year? Was it a teacher? What got you?
I don't know what led me to taking choir in middle school, but
Mhm.
being really enthusiastic about it. I guess maybe it had to, excuse me, had to do with playing the piano quite a bit. I'm not good. Like that's all gone, gone
Yeah, sure.
completely out the window. But I do recall that like that kind of trajectory. I mean, like when you find a place where it's like, yeah, this is my thing. Like singing. I think I do it well. Let me do this throughout middle school and then just take it in high school. But I feel like the first time that I heard music, like choral music as like an art form, um, is being a freshman in our very first concert and hearing Eric Whitacre. like the upper ensemble. I guess can be rather like, I guess it might be pretty typical. I think a lot of people, I guess my age have.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because that would have been in what, like 2003, 4-ish.
Yeah, 2004.
You know?
Yeah.
So that seems about right. I remember I actually sang Cloudburst with my high school choir after I had just moved to Las Vegas. Like 6 weeks later, I was on stage singing with them at the ACDA Western Regional, and we sang Cloudburst among some other really great. It was a great experience, but that was my first introduction to Eric Whitacre, which was, you know, kind of mind blowing at the time. And my high school director actually went to college with him, so we felt like we knew him even though we didn't. Right?
Yeah, had that personal connection.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that's probably for a lot of people a pretty typical like thing that got their hooks in, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, to be honest, I mean, I've only met him like a couple times and never really had like a true conversation with him. But
yeah,
I do know that like when he was talking, like all the times that I've seen him publicly speaking, it does feel like he's actually talking to you. So like, it feels like he knew you and like, oh, he knows me. He's like,
well, let me tell you, I've had a couple of close encounters. We did share nachos at Toby Keith's in Oklahoma City. Toby Keith apparently has a restaurant. We had nachos there. And then because my high school director does know him, when she had her, I think the 20th anniversary of the high school being open that she'd taught there for basically her whole career, there was a concert and alumni came back and sang and alumni came back and conducted. And so I think I might've conducted the first or second piece on the concert, and then Eric conducted the second piece. So that was my little, I can tell people we shared a stage as conductors, which is so ridiculous, right? But
no, but that's so special. That's so awesome.
Yeah. No, it's it's one of those funny stories. Okay. And when did you decide that you were going to, like, music was going to be the career? And it may not have been composing, because I suspect that might not have been the thing that you left high school saying I want to do, but you knew you wanted to be in music somewhere, right? What made that decision, and then how did you kind of navigate to where you are?
Oh, I know that these are chewy questions. These are good questions.
And I'm not asking you, like, you don't need to summarize 10 years succinctly, right? But somewhere you went from, wow, I really like choir in high school, to I think I'm going to go do this as a career, right? So what kind of, when was that?
Well, I guess I definitely came from, you know, my mom wanted the best for all of us. And she was, you know, I mean, you grow up in a pretty conservative household, you're going to grow up to be a doctor or a lawyer, or you're going to do something that's really stable so that you don't have to worry about money, which is such a funny thing, because, oh my gosh, if you want to lose a lot of money really fast, then take out a bunch of student loans to fund that education and do it for a really long time. But I digress. I remember that high school had always been like, it was an awakening, just like it's an awakening for a lot of people, where I found out how much I loved performing. Like I was the theater kid. I was the choir kid. I was insufferable. It was great. Proudly insufferable. And I loved music, but I knew that choir had always been my favorite period of every day. And I really, really just loved it. And so I wish that I could just go to school and get a choir degree. I just wanted to sing in choir forever. And that was what I was hoping for. But I didn't really know like what the way forward was. I mean, I didn't particularly want to teach. I really did like writing, but I'd never written for choir before. I'd just written tunes on the piano or tunes on the computer. And so I told my mom that I was going to get a degree in music, and it was a hard conversation because I didn't even know what I wanted to do in music. But I started in music ed because it was like, you know what, all else fails, do music ed, which is not the right reason to do
Sure.
to do music ed. Yes, I teach because it was safety. Like, no, that's like terrible. I didn't know it back then, but I think most people, I mean, who go into college not knowing what they want to do, it's perfect. But I did know that I really wanted to do choir music. Just wanted to sing in choir. So I went into college. My first year was really eye-opening. Oh my gosh, like the choral music we were making was bonkers. I was at East Carolina University with Daniel Barra, and he is just incredible. So it was a beautiful choir. It was ECU was definitely one of the pinnacles of choral music in North Carolina, and still is. And there's multiple great choral schools too. But I do know that once my second year rolled around, I was starting to find out that I really wanted to write choral music too. So my first piece actually was Dan Barra had set up this thing that happened every single spring with his master students. Super cool. Like he would get a bunch of volunteers from the top group, or basically anyone who wanted to sing. It was basically the workshop chorus for the grad students. Each grad student would pick a song and then teach it to this choir. I, of course, immediately wanted to join because it's like choir, more choir. I want to do choir. They thing where if you submitted a piece that you had written as a student, they would have this section of their spring concert where they would do a bunch of premieres. Like each grad student of the 5 grad students that were there at the time, they each had a choral piece that they were training with this choir, rehearsing with this choir. And so I submitted one of mine. I was really into Pierre Valette at the time, and I didn't really understand anything about like Latin text. So I just pulled a bunch of words from like one of his motets, and I just came up with like a setting of O Pie Jesu, and like some like a motley assortment of the words that came from one of those motets. And he performed it, like we performed it, and I was never the same. It was so cool. It was so amazing. I was just like totally taken. So that was the first moment that I knew like it was the happiest moment of my life up to that point. So I knew this was like, I had got like a really big breadcrumb on this trail going to wherever music's going. But then I switched my major from music ed to composition and did not have the best experience. I don't think I was ready for, I had an idea of what comp lessons were, and what I ended up taking was not, well, it just wasn't what I was expected. I was young, I was green. And it's also, I was fragile too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'll give in the interest, because I have so many things I want to talk to you about, I'll give people 2 spoiler alerts. One, you must have switched back to music education because you did in fact teach high school.
Nope.
You didn't?
No, it's a weird way. I found a way to get everything that I wanted, but yeah.
Well, okay, then no spoiler. But the real spoiler is you must have eventually gotten more comfortable and happier with composition, because here we are talking to you as a composer, and you've written a ton of really wonderful pieces. So,
oh, thank you.
Somehow that worked out. Now,
yeah.
I want to shift away from kind of the talk about you for just a second. We're gonna play a quick game, as we've done the last few episodes. Again, I mentioned that our sponsor for the episode is Four Fires Meadery, and so we're gonna play a game called Fire, Not Fire. I'm gonna give you 10 topics, kind of rapid fire, and you're going to tell me, are they in fact fire or not fire?
Okay. All right.
Okay. Great. Number 1, California in the summer.
Oh, fire. Fire.
I figured. Now, Texas in the summer.
Oh, not fire. Or is there fire in all the wrong ways? Is that like an option too?
I hear it's hot there. It's hot.
It's yeah, you can describe it that way. It's
I lived in Las Vegas for 13 years, so I'm familiar with that desert heat.
oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well, is it really humid in Las Vegas too? It's
No humid, none, zero humidity. Just it feels like you're
just
opening
hot.
an oven door, pretty much.
It was that way. I was surprised our tires didn't melt. John and I were out on a trip to Lake Powell, and we drove through, and it was right in the middle of the heat wave, and the dial clocked Las Vegas at 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
Seems about right.
Like, I couldn't. People built a city there. Like,
it makes no sense. Don't try and make sense of it. Okay, number 3, a good bottle of wine.
Fire.
Are you a red wine or white wine?
It's changed over time, but red wine.
And any specific varietal that you're a big fan of recently?
No, I seem to manage to forget every single thing that I taste when it comes to wine, but I do know that I really like it. So.
That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. Number 4, watching the news.
It's not fire to watch the world be on fire. All right now.
It's tough these days, isn't it?
Yeah, especially depends on the news. I was like, mind if we digress? I didn't want to interrupt you. Yeah, I was talking to John yesterday, and we just had a tangent about New York Times. Like I loved it at first because it was like, oh, I'm getting information, I'm keeping up to date, but it is so exhausting when every single headline is constantly something that's going wrong. And, on a world with 7-8 billion people, like, things.
Yeah. The worst thing for me right now is, I shouldn't do this to myself, but I do. I spend a fair amount of time on social media. I'm sure you probably spend some time on social media even when you don't really want to, partly because you're out promoting yourself, right? So I'm on social media because I'm promoting the podcast or something other thing that I've got going on.
Yeah.
And inevitably I scroll through and I'll find the local news has posted something, and even if it's something great, right, it'll be like, local kid wins spelling bee or something, and you're like, fluff piece, this is great. And then you click the comment section and it's like, why are we teaching kids how to spell? Like the dumbest, it doesn't even make sense. And then you feel angry about it. So even when there's good news, the world right now seems to find a way to make it unbearable.
That is the saddest thing.
Yeah.
And I totally I do a little bit of the same thing. I am apparently what is it when you like to inflict self-pain? Masochist, is that right?
Yeah.
I check out Fox News just to, I want to see what's on the other side. I mean honestly,
we should talk when we're done recording about this, because I did the same thing, but I don't think I want this conversation to go into the real on this. We should spare our listeners, but we'll talk.
Good
later.
point. Okay, yeah. So that's a little, that's a.
I don't think we have a lot of Fox News viewers listening to my podcast, but just the same, I think that's a rabbit hole we'll save for later. Okay, number 5, fire or not fire? Traveling.
Oh, fire. Yeah.
Good.
Fire, definitely.
Here's one. I don't know this about you. Watching sports.
For me, not fire.
Do you have any? Is there any sport that you have latched onto that you're a fan of?
I watched F1 Formula. Oh yeah, what was it? Formula 1 Drive to Survive on Netflix. Oh my gosh! Like, now that I know the characters, and there's only like 20 of them, so I understand and connect with them. Like,
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I would say F1 is pretty cool. yet to like actually watch a race. So
I do like that your high school slash your choir slash drama personality came through, and rather than saying the drivers, you said I know the characters. So I understand.
That's intriguing. Yeah,
I understand.
Yeah, I guess so.
What are we, number 7? Cooking at home.
Fire. It's a little spark.
Yeah. Number 8, fast food.
Oh, if it's the Popeyes chicken sandwich, fire. If it's most other things, maybe not so fire.
All right, I understand. Matt Hazzard stands for the Popeyes chicken sandwich, and that's it. Number 9, early mornings.
When I wake up for them, yeah, fire.
Okay. Okay. And number 10, late nights.
Fire.
Yeah.
Fire.
More of a night person than a morning person.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. I mean, that's the reason why I don't experience the early mornings so often. I'm usually falling asleep at 12, 1.
I hear.
I'm a late night kind of guy.
All right. Well, that was Fire Not Fire, presented by Four Fires Meadery. Just a little game, a couple of things to get to know you a little bit better. Thank you for indulging me.
Love it.
Okay, friends, I want to take a minute to tell you about the sponsor for today's episode, Four Fires Meadery. First meadery in Toledo, they are making some absolutely incredible stuff. And the good news is that even if you can't drop in for a few glasses, you can have the mead shipped directly to your door. I am not sure I can imagine a more exciting package to open. Right now, on their website, you can order things like Mangost, a mango pineapple honey wine with ghost peppers added. The ghost peppers might sound kind of intense, but the sweet and heat are amazingly well balanced. Or maybe a bottle of Little Pink Lawn Chair. This is their strawberry, raspberry, and lemon mead to give you a taste of pink lemonade in the summer year-round. I had a glass of this on their patio a couple of weeks ago, and, well, it's the perfect summer beverage. If you want to try some, visit them on the web at 4fmeadery.com and order a bottle today. They're shipping nationwide, and you don't want to miss out. Again, that is the number 4fmeadery.com to order your bottle today. I also hope you will show them some support on social media at Four Fires Meadery on Instagram. It's a great follow. Buy some mead, you won't regret it. And now, back to the conversation. I want to talk about some of your music, and we've talked a long time without really talking about your music, which is great, except now I'm worried we're not going to get to everything. So I'm not going to start with the song that I was going to start with. And I want to jump right into a set of songs. There Is No Sea, because that's the one that kind of I've got on the list as being the thing I want to talk about most. Can you just kind of give us a little bit of an intro to not any of the specific pieces, but to the kind of project in general and its genesis?
So The Ocean Between Us, There Is No Sea is it's the first movement I wrote, but it was it's the second. Ocean Between Us is it's brutal. My dad passed away 2.5 years ago. Or has it been more? I think maybe it's even coming up. I think it's actually already been 3. And it just, John had lost his father in March of 2018. And I think these dates are right. It's just been, my mind has been elsewhere, but by this point he had really been supporting me in performing my music and really exploring my music and giving it to the choir to perform at Cal State Long Beach. And he wanted me to set an ocean poem. He didn't know what. He just wanted an ocean song because he wanted to put on an ocean concert in the fall. And he was finding text, but I was like, wait, John, you're a poet. You should write something. And so he ended up writing a list of 7 poems, the ocean poems, each for a different person. And one of them for his dad, one of them for his mom. But this was all in the wake of him losing his dad. He finally gives me this set. It's just about the summer. School year's almost out. He gives it to me. I'm like, great, this is beautiful. A week later, my dad dies. And it was, of course, devastating. And so I had gone out there that week to be with my family in Idaho, because that's where my dad passed away. That's where he's from, Boise. And when I came back, the very first thing that I turned to was his poetry. Because I mean, like, I realized after reading these poems, like, I was just finding so much of this moment, this ache in the text. Like, you know, there was one about joy on being on his former teacher's boat. Then there was one about the loss of Herman, and reflecting on the text of "And So I Will Go On," "And So I Go On" by Jake Renestad, Todd Boss's text. That's where "There Is No Sea" comes from.
So I want to say, for people who are listening, Jake was one of our guests in a previous episode, and so if for anybody who wants to hear that story, click back to Jake's episode, because it's I get emotional every time I tell that story. And it's people should go and listen to that music, and that will maybe give some perspective to John and to this writing as well.
Yeah, that is right. That's kind of incredible that you guys talked about it at length. Yeah, about And So I Go On and that Genesis. Then there was more. One to his mom, which was just about literally just moving on, enjoying life. So over the summer, oh my gosh, I don't know why I did this. I'd set up an entire month where I was like literally traveling everywhere. And this was like right before everything happened. So I ended up going to all these places and seeing all these people forcibly, because I mean, I had made the plans and said I would be there and bought those tickets. And so I spent a lot of time around people when really all I wanted to do was be alone. But I'm really glad that I did, because I think that was the right move. And throughout that entire process, that entire summer, I was setting these poems. I set "There Is No Sea," which was the very first thing. It just flooded out of me. I think it was only 2 weeks after my dad died. So that piece, it's sorrow incarnate. It's just me pouring out my grief. No filter. That was a brutal night. John's text helped me really put words to what I couldn't say, but I definitely felt. Like in There Is No Sea, he gave words to grief. Like that simple 3-line poem sounds exactly like what grief is. It's not describing it. It's just saying, yeah, the ocean's really big, but it's not big enough to contain this. And with The Prow, I think I started writing it during that month-long excursion. I think only a few weeks after my dad died, because I wanted to feel like me again. I just wanted to feel joy. I mean, like it felt like joy was like it wasn't true. Like I was trying really, really hard to be like essential to myself. Like being happy was so a part of my identity. And so I started writing it.
So I want to ask you about, in this piece, in addition to it being very, very happy, because I told you I was listening to your music chronologically, which you have as an option on your website. And it seems this piece feels to me precipitously more difficult than anything you'd written before it from a vocal standpoint. But the piano is also more challenging and has more depth to it. It's more expansive in its vocal range. It's more active and demanding vocally than a lot of the pieces you'd written prior to this. And so I wonder is there something else other than just the inspiration for the music? Was there something else that was happening in your life or had recently happened that would have led to pretty dynamic change in your composition? Because from an outside perspective, it seems like a pretty big leap in your music.
Yeah. That was like what? I guess the piece right before that was Maybe Look Back on Time, I think, which is a pretty big leap. Yeah, I totally see what you mean. I never thought of it like that way, but yeah, no, totally. It was because I went to Cal State Long Beach. It's because I studied with John. Yeah, it was literally what brought me to California was hearing Jake Renestad's Come to the Woods performed by Choral Arts Initiative. And like, I flipping love Jake. He's the best. He actually did, I actually took a lesson with him on There Is No Sea. I brought There Is No Sea on that month-long journey, and he was like
Yeah.
so great and like welcomed me in and like gave me this free lesson and steak and an old fashioned, and it was like, oh my gosh, Jake, like
Right. Yeah.
top tier human being, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's hearing his music. One of the things that I pulled away from was that I love the way he contextualizes all of the big with the small. Like if he has a big moment, you better believe there is a small moment with it. Like there's like somewhere in the piece that contextualizes everything. And that's actually what I felt with The Ocean Between Us, is that if I wanted people to feel how broken I was, then, or at least like feel that grief, then they would need to also feel joy. And that's actually why, even though I wrote the prow first, I mean, in order to contextualize the sorrow that comes, there has to be joy. And the joy, the prow was definitely me reaching in, trying to find a piece of myself that I had lost. And I think through it, I felt a whole lot better, especially after I had shown the folks at Coro like that helped me through that process. Jocelyn Hagen and Tim Takash.
Yeah, Jocelyn, who's coming up as a guest in a few weeks. Yeah,
goddess.
Let me. I'll say it's funny that you said small things. I know that you're talking about maybe emotional content or even dynamic, right? The kind of the scale of the music. But one of the small things that you do in the Proud that I really like is the echo of the "No One Can Catch Us" that happens in the piano at the end, because it starts real subtle because it's at a lower pitch, right? And so when the first time it happens, you don't really hear it, right? It's like it's there, but it's very faint. And it's not until it really, I think the last one's like a B flat, somewhere, I don't remember what key it's in, but it's just above the staff. And it's that last one that you go, oh, that was something I know. And so then I had to go back in the score and go, when did that happen? Where did that start? But it was just
underwater. Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I like that. It was just this, it was a very thoughtful addition to the end of the piece that had it not been there, the piece still would have been the piece, right? It would not have lost anything by that little motive not repeating in the piano. But that was such a kind of welcome surprise for me at the end.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you for diving into that so much. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, you know, I pretend I've done my homework. The third piece in this set, So Much to Seek, there's a lot of very fast repeating text and a lot of overlap in the text. And I'm wondering not only what led you to that decision, but was the sound of the text in a non-musical way, not the like words themselves and not the pitch, but the sound of the text, right? The friction created by that quality, was that part of it? Because that felt very effective to me. And I don't know if that was part of the decision making, but that spoke to me at the beginning of that. So tell us a little bit about the beginning of that piece.
So it's literally, I mean, if I was like placing exactly what that is, it's me stranded in the middle of the canyon. I had just gone to Las Vegas. I was driving back. The drive to Las Vegas was so fast. Oh my gosh, when I was driving back, it was so slow. This is the very end of summer. I went out because I really didn't want to go, but I did it because I wanted to be, a good friend, and it turned out to be the perfect thing to do. And it was on my return trip that it would take longer to take the main road back to from Las Vegas to Long Beach. So I took this side road, and before I knew it, I was this lone car on this dirt road driving in the middle of a bunch of, I believe, what were yucca trees in the middle of this valley, like with mountains surrounding me in Nevada. And that's when it happened. I had already lived with this tech so much. I mean, like, I don't know what it was about it that like totally drew it to me, but it was that isolation and going out and doing things as a form of moving on, literally moving on by moving, and just being places that I felt like this beginning is literally echoes across that canyon. So much to see and to see, and then it just like fades out, and then it comes back, and it's just like this, I don't know, almost like a montage of all these places that I've been. Freaking emotion of so much to see and to see and see and to see. Yeah, like totally. Yeah, that's I love the way that you put it. Like makes me sound so smart.
Well, yeah. I'm always fascinated by repetition of text, especially fast repetition of text, because I wonder, for some people, I think when they repeat text a lot, it's because they want the words to be heard, even though maybe it's really fast music, right? And so it's the meaning of the text that drives that fast the repetition of music. Sometimes it's because it's the rhythm itself, right? It's like the bounce of the words gives rhythm to the piece, and so that's kind of the motor underlying things. Sometimes it's actually just the sound of that repeating, right? And so with the S's of so and seek, that you've got so, see, so, right? And there's a lot of that happening. And so that was just this like kind of sonic thing that's happening. And you almost get lost and don't hear the words because it's just the sound quality that's there. So I was just curious how that came to be. But yeah,
it totally is kind of like these flashing images. Like these images are flashing before your eyes so fast that you can't see. Like,
yeah.
I mean, we live so much. And like, I mean, even just like glances, like snapshots from the previous week of your life or my life. Like, it's just this montage that's flashing before our eyes. Like, I guess that is kind of what that is, like so fast that you can't even digest it, but it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And it all builds up to something. So yeah, that's cool. That's a beautiful image. I'm glad that you caught that.
I could keep talking about this piece, and there are pieces that I wanted to talk about that I just don't think we're going to get to. So I want to move to, I think, just one more piece, and this is a newer piece, maybe the newest piece. I can't remember, but I want to talk a little bit about Flight, and correct me if I'm wrong. Well, correct me because I don't remember what the award was, I think, but I don't remember. But you were just recognized for Flight. So I think it was the Raymond Brock, which anybody who's an ACDA member, which many choir directors and that some of the audience will know what that is. But essentially, the Raymond Brock award goes, there's a piece every year that gets this Raymond Brock commission. And this was for the because you are a student at a university, there's a student level for this award, and Flight was recognized for that.
It was received. Yeah, it was in second place, which was like awesome, because I mean, like, I honestly didn't even know if I could submit it after having submitted won like a few years prior, in 2017.
It's your poetry.
Yeah.
And so I want to know how setting your own text was different for you, because as far as I had seen, you had not done that before, and maybe you had in another piece, but you'd spent a long time setting other people's poetry. So what was different for you about setting your own words?
I think the only reason why it worked, well, let me preface it with this. I have set my text before, but not successfully. I wouldn't call it successfully. I would say that any piece that I had ever set to my own text, I mean, unless I'm forgetting something, I am not proud of. But that's the wonders of juvenilia. You don't have to, no one, you don't have to show that to the world, and no one can see it, and it's beautiful. But nice little growing pieces. But this time I had something I really wanted to say, and there was just no there. I mean, I set a lot of John's poetry, and I have a lot of poems stashed away, and a lot of favorite poets as well. And I have like an entire like little stash of their work, but none of it said what I wanted it to say. And so I just decided to write this piece, and it all came very, very fast. I mean, one idea that returning, yeah, that came and like a freight truck, it just like bulldozed everything. Like I just started writing immediately, and it was like writing the piece and the text at the same time, and just following it to the very end. And it was a whirlwind, I think maybe 1 or 2 days, maybe 3, which is how I tend to write, just like little bursts, like shabam. But yeah, I can't really, you know, I guess when you enter into that composer's trance, like you enter into that agreement with yourself that it's just like whatever is coming to your mind, you're like putting onto the page, and whatever you're workshopping, like you're just like crafting, it's just, you're in the zone. So I don't even remember what it was truly like, but I do remember that I felt very thrilled being able to finally successfully, I think in my opinion, set my own text. And I think it's just because I had something to say and I really wanted to say it. And so I said it.
It's interesting because you early on as a composer, you were setting some fairly traditional poems, things that are somewhat common in choral music, right? There are other people who've set those texts, and it's poets who are long since gone, right? And you're also young, right? You're young as a composer. You're a younger person. I think a lot of us, when we are in our early 20s, we think we have a really good idea of who we are as a person, and then we turn 30 and we're like, what the was I thinking? I had no idea who I was at 18 or 22 or even 25, right? But
Yeah.
you change so much in that time, and you don't, I think when you turn 18 or 21, you don't realize that you still have so much growth to do, because you're just kind of blinded by where you are. So obviously you're growing as a person and as a composer, because you're studying and you're practicing. The combination of your growth as a composer, but also you engaging with poetry by someone that or yourself, someone who's alive, someone a vernacular that's different, right? The words being used are different. There was a major change in the type of music you were writing. So I just found that really interesting. And I don't know what your plans are in the future for writing, and if you'll go back to older, more historical poetry, or if you're planning to stay with living composers. But it was really interesting to see that kind of change in your music.
So what I love is that, like, I think you've totally hit the nail on the head. Like, there is something about the Proud. That was the very first time, I guess, well, there is no C technically, but as far as that set works, that was the very first time that I had set John's poetry. And there's just something beautiful. I mean, like, between me and John, I think his text brings out the best composer in me. And my music and my demands as a composer, and like what I want to say, the artist within me, brings out the best poetry in him. And because if I look at, like, when I think about all the pieces that I had written, especially that Juvenilia, which is kind of funny to say, because I've only been writing for 10 years, 11 years, which feels like a lifetime. I guess my full lifetime as an adult post 21, but there is that huge difference that I think, like, once John and I met and we became like a partnership, like an artistic partnership, and then became partners, it was just all this music has just flown. It's poured so genuinely, like everything is said with intention. I think there was a moment where, I mean, like, the composer itch. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Like I gotta write. I gotta
sure.
do it. Yeah. Just like anyone needs to make art, like that desire. I would write because of that itch, but then when I met John, writing, and especially writing after losing my dad, everything started having purpose. I think more than it did before. Not that it didn't have it before, but that it really did now. There's clear intention. So maybe that was perhaps why. Like, maybe that's why living poets are just so resonate with me. But yeah.
I like that. I could talk to you. I got a bunch more pieces I could talk about, but I want to move to some non-musical things as we sort of see the end of our time together on the horizon. So my we'll call it research for the podcast, my internet stalking of you for the podcast, which is what I generally do with everybody who's on, is besides their music and their website, I kind of comb through some social media and, find what I can find.
Go you. That's awesome.
So this is really funny and fascinating to me. And I hope that you answer this the way that I think you're going to, or that you don't go, yeah, I don't know why that was there. And it's on your Facebook. And I was looking at, like I don't know, I clicked like view info or whatever button it was. And it goes through and it says like things you remember early in Facebook, like people would like shows that they liked and books that they liked and things like
Oh
that.
yeah, that
Okay.
was a thing.
Which nobody
I
does
forgot.
anymore. But you had liked 5 books on Facebook. One was Harry Potter, one I can't remember, but the other 3 are some of my absolute most favorite books in the entire world. And so I want to ask you about these. The other 3 books were The Stranger by Camus, Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, and the Redwall series by Brian Jacques. And I want to ask, are these all legitimate? Like, are these likes for you? Is this these are books that you
Oh,
love?
that's so real. I was a Redwall nerd. I loved that series, and I love those 2 books.
So I'll say, like, going through high school, you read a lot of books because you have to, and you don't love all of them. I have, I think, 2 copies of Siddhartha on my shelf back there. And I've read The Stranger in English and poorly in French, although I think if I want to read it again in French because my French has gotten a lot better. But I like the book enough that I made that effort. Those are both kind of just books that had high impact on me. But the Redwall series, I think I have 12 of them hardback in my bedroom. And I don't have all of them, but a good number of them. For the listener who is not onto this, as you and I are, could you maybe give them a brief, like in just a sentence or two, give them maybe what the premise of the Redwall series is, just kind of a basic thing?
Let's see. How do I put this? Redwall is the Middle Ages, except instead of people, it's animals. So like it's mice and rats, like slaughtering each other. Yeah, that's like, I think it's,
yeah, it's fascinating. And now, if you're like me, when you read the Redwall books, anybody who has read them will know that every different animal speaks with a slightly different inflection or has a different speech pattern. Do you hear the voice in your head with a different accent for every character?
Oh heck yeah! Like whenever I heard, I didn't know like Scottish accents or Irish accents or anything like that, but like what like anytime I heard like the rap, yeah, totally. Like all the moles sounded like Winnie the Pooh. It was
yeah. I loved those books. I mean, I was just so excited when there was another one that had come out and would like, I don't know. I loved those books.
When did you start reading them? Like, when did that happen?
Boy, it was somewhere between 4th and 6th grade for me. I can't remember. It might have been 6th grade. We might have read Redwall might have been on either a reading list or we read it in class. And then I couldn't get enough, man. And I was hooked and just, yeah.
Oh, that was exactly the same thing that I experienced. Yeah. Same time periods. Yeah.
I just thought that was so funny that you had such a limited number of like book likes on there, and 3 of them I was like, yes.
Well, you could, it's funny. I bet I would have had like a couple more, and I'm glad that you mentioned The Stranger and Siddhartha, because I mean, you mentioned like you're like becoming an atheist, like that you're now identify as an atheist. But I mean, I had a very, very strong period of that, and those 2 books were so essential, which was like going, and I think it's less about religion and more about like you're told everything that you should believe in and what you should believe in and how you should believe in it and how you should practice it. And these books, I guess, I mean, like existentialism and The Stranger, and then like expanding your mind and like purpose and finding like your own way, and in Siddhartha, I mean, like it totally, that's like the perfect fodder for figuring out like
Yeah,
who you
sure.
want to be like when you're a teenager. But Redwall, man, I got those accelerated reader points, those RAR points. That's how they graded
Nice.
us. Yeah, all those AR points was just me reading Redwall.
It's great.
Something that I would have done anyways. Yeah.
Which is, it's funny. I mean, do teachers know that those books are just like murder and drinking? Like, I mean, that's kind of right.
No.
That's kind of what the books are.
No. Did you have to like take like when you did a reading test or like the reading list, did you have to take any quizzes or anything to prove that you read the book or
I don't remember. I think I just read all of those just because I loved them. So I don't remember.
Yeah. That's maybe. Yeah.
Tell me about music. What kind of music are you listening to these days? Any favorite new artists or tracks or things that are on your playlist?
Oh yeah. Oh, big time. But I mean, like, have you ever heard of Kings of Convenience?
I love Kings of Convenience. Yeah.
You know Kings of Convenience?
Yeah,
and you
of course.
also love them?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. They are one of my most favorite bands.
Yeah. What's the first song of theirs I heard, I think was I'd Rather Dance With You. Right? Is that what it's called?
I'd rather dance.
Yeah, love that tune, man.
Yeah.
That, like, I don't know how anyone could listen to that and not go, yeah, I dig this. I'm into it.
Yeah, it's just like super chill music with like the most perfect vocal harmonies. And their latest album, their fourth album came out shortly. Not long ago, and it was Peace or Love.
Okay.
And so I've been jamming out to that. Like,
okay.
Here, just perfect. Sufjan Stevens, you a Sufjan Stevens fan?
Of course, yeah.
Actually, this goes back to The Ocean Between Us. The last time that I saw my dad, I was listening to that album. Saw him year later, that's when he passes. And then the entire time, like the entire grieving process, and even still now, I listen to Carrie and Lowell, which is, I
love that album. I actually taught when I was teaching high school when that came out, and I taught that album as part of a music appreciation class.
Oh, hells yeah.
Yeah. Because I just thought
how did you do that?
Well, poorly. Because I was young. I don't remember what year that came out or which school I was at, but
Carrie and Lowell came out 2015. So
oh, is that right? That can't. Oh,
yeah.
I know. I taught. I taught when I was at Western Illinois University. I was teaching an American pop class, and I had at the end, the last like 2 or 3 class periods, I was just getting to play like, because the textbook we use only goes up to X year, and so then you've got the end, and I was just like trying to expose these students to things that I thought were really wonderful. And why they're wonderful. So I think I played 3 or 4 songs off of that so that we could talk about kind of the album as a whole and where it came from. So that's great.
In addition to what was it? You mentioned that your favorites were like Ben Folds and
Ben Folds is like he's all-time favorite. That's for sure.
Legendary stars.
Yeah. Tell me, are you like most every other normal human being, have you been during quarantine, have you been binging a lot of television? Has there been any favorite series, new or old, that you've watched during that time?
Oh, did you see The Queen's Gambit?
Loved it. Yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I honestly, like, John and I like binged quite a few, but I'm Money Heist. It's a Spanish one.
It's on my list, but I haven't seen it yet. Because everybody's list is huge, right? Because you just go, ad. Yeah.
I would say, well, I don't watch. I'm honestly like a YouTuber.
Okay.
Like in that, not that I'm on YouTube, but that I ingest a lot of YouTube. Like I have YouTube Premium. I don't have Netflix. I mean, if I'm watching Netflix, it's when I'm with John. But I love Money Heist and F1 Drive to Survive and what is it? Yeah, Queen's Gambit. I'm struggling to think of any other shows that had like as much of an impact on me, but those were definitely the ones. Well, I mean, quarantine was also my first exposure to Sex and the City, so that was interesting.
That one doesn't hit quite as well for me. I've seen a handful of episodes at random, but maybe one day I'll get back and I'll watch it.
Maybe one day it awakens something in you. I don't know.
The reboot's coming, right?
Is there actually a really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure the reboot is coming, but as I recall, maybe no Kim Cattrall in the reboot.
Huh.
There's going to be an angry listener that says I've got every bit of that information wrong. But I think that's true.
You don't know who's in the new Sex and the City?
I try. I don't know. Who knows?
I made it a season and I didn't actually go super far with that, but it was fun.
Yeah, sure. That's, it's a great thing that you can pretty much anything you want to watch now, you can very easily watch. I watched some classic movies, and of course I'm going to forget, but I was looking at the AFI top 100 movies of all time list, and I thought, well, I haven't seen a lot of these. I should watch some of these. Some of them are okay. I watched. Have you seen Citizen Kane?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But I know of it.
It was fine. It's like the number 1 or 2 movie of all time, according to a lot of these lists. It was fine. It's
you are spitting fire.
I don't know. It's like it was.
Wait.
It's
fire,
old,
not fire.
Not fire. It was artistic and it was well done, right? Like I can appreciate if I was like a film student or I'm studying this as a movie, I could totally appreciate why it's good. But from a pure entertainment standpoint, it doesn't hold a lot of interest for me.
Yeah, I bet it's because it did a lot of things first. It's one of those.
Yeah.
But because it has that status and it's being judged on well, back then, did they have any of that? No. But I mean, then I guess you could say Charlie Chaplin is on very top in some ways. So
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Matt, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. I could keep talking to you because I think you're a fascinating and interesting guy and a very nice guy. And I wish we'd gotten to talk to more about more of your music, but at some point we've got to kind of cut things off. So do you have more cocktail in front of you?
I do.
Good.
Very
I've got
little.
Yeah, I'm at the very bottom of the mead. So we're going to say cheers and thank you so much for being a part of the show. So cheers.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us for episode 11 of the Composer Happy Hour presented by Whatever and Ever Amen. Thank you to my friend Matthew Lyon Hazzard for the conversation. I hope you'll follow up and find some more Matt's music to listen to. A link to his website is in the episode description. As always, we hope that you will rate and review this podcast wherever you happen to be listening, and consider sharing a link to your favorite episode on your preferred social media platform. Thank you again to our sponsor for the episode, Four Fires Meadery. Their mead is absolutely world-class, and you can have it delivered directly to your door by ordering at 4fmeadery.com. Our guest next time is Christopher Harris, and I am looking forward to sharing another drink and a conversation with you then. Thanks again, everyone. Cheers.